Okay, guys, so the last time we were talking, we got our basics of our facial proportions down. We broke down our face vertically, horizontally, and then we broke down our additional measurements to set up for our nose, our mouth, finish up our eyebrows, and then we'll do the insides of our eyes as well. All right, so let's get going. The first thing we're going to do is start pretty simple, and we're going to start with our ears. So if we kind of think about our ears, they have that like thicker cartilage piece on the outside, so we can't just leave it like this. We need to make sure that we draw an inner part of our ear as well, and that will help kind of create that cartilage. All we're going to do is basically draw an ear within an ear. So that same sort of shape that we drew for our ear, we're going to draw that again inside, making sure that it's not too thick and not too thin, that it looks, about right. When we are drawing our facial proportions and a face in general, you do kind of want to use the Goldilocks sort of theory of not too big, not too small, just right. You have to go with what looks best for your eyes in your project. This is, after all, going to be you. Okay, so today is going to be a little bit more like generic human. And then when we move on to our final project, I'll encourage you to really make sure it has features that are a bit more like you. So if I were to draw this again, I would probably want to elongate my face a little bit to better represent my facial structure. Okay, and your face might be a little bit different. All right, so we've gone ahead and done the inners of our ears. We're going to go ahead and draw in our nose next. Now, our nose is a little tricky, and I am going to zoom in up here on my iPad. And for your nose, okay, I want you to think of a simple shape. And for that simple shape, you are going to think of a big, giant, like popcorn bowl or salad bowl. And then on the sides, you are going to think of like a C and a backwards C, or parentheses that are tilted a little bit, just like this. And I know that doesn't look like much, but this is the basics of getting your nose structure down. Okay, so actually putting that onto our face, our nose is going to fit in this area right here. The tip is going to rest here, so the bottom of our bowl will rest here, and then our parentheses will touch those dashed lines. Okay, so we're going to play hot lava with our popcorn bowl. We don't want it to be like a U, like a letter U shape. If it's taller, your nose is going to look a little awkward. So again, you want that kind of open bowl shape. Then from there, we're going to lift up from our line a little bit to add in those kind of parentheses C, backwards C sort of shapes. So again, those are lifted just a little bit up from that line, and trying to make them as symmetrical as possible. And then the only thing that I usually do to kind of liven up our nose a little bit is sometimes I will kind of curve and open out the nose a little tiny bit. So opening the angle of the bowl just a little bit. And I know that doesn't look like much, but I promise you it's enough. Nobody ever says like, "Oh, what a beautiful nose you have." That's really not something somebody recognizes on a face. So why do we want to put a lot of detail in it? Nostrils aren't exactly the prettiest thing we have to offer. Okay? All right. And we definitely aren't going to draw any ovals or circles. No, 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 no. Because we are, like, if you think about it, I am looking straight ahead into the camera. And if you're looking straight ahead in the mirror, do you really see up your nose like a big hole? No, you don't. So we don't draw it. Okay? All right. So that's it. That's it for our nose. We're going to move down to our mouth. Mouths are tricky. I'm just going to throw it out there. It's not going to look right at first. You might adjust it a bunch. We're not going to add teeth because that's super challenging. However, I will demo it for you if you are interested to do a smile, like an open mouth smile instead of just a resting face. Okay, so I will do both. We're going to start with a resting face. The first thing you're going to do is realize that this is actually where the bottom of your bottom lip is going to be to stay proportionate and to make sure we have enough room for a chin. Okay, so we're going to start by drawing what I like to call Caillou, if you even know who that is anymore. So I'm going to make another salad bowl-like shape, touching that bottom, but playing hot lava. I'm not coming near my dashed lines. These dashed lines are like no-no lines. If you go all the way out that far, it's going to appear like you are the Joker. So we definitely don't want to do that. okay? So this is where I think it looks like Caillou a little bit, like if I zoom out, like the little bald-headed kid with not much features available. All right, so then from there, so that's the bottom of our bottom lip. We're gonna do the top of our top lip. I like to leave kind of roughly like a pencil space between where the nose and the upper lip are gonna start. And for the upper lip, I draw a teeny tiny little letter V. And then I like to curve it out just past where my bottom like salad bowl is. So it's not super curvy. We don't want to make it super bumpy. You'll look like a crazy person that got like collagen injections in their lips, so we don't want to do that. Okay, keep it pretty simple. Just that tiny little V shape in the middle to help kind of guide your lips outward. Okay, then from there, we are going to kind of make a very soft curve, and then it just kind of flattens out and it meets your top lip, like so. And now it makes my bottom look gigantic, okay? So this is where you need to kind of make adjustments. You know, you can ask yourself, do I want to make it slightly open? And that kind of skinnies up my lip a little bit. So I could do that. I could also just erase my bottom lip. I now know based on where my eraser marks are, okay, I know the basic shape it needs to be, but maybe let's make this a little skinnier, a little more slight, so it looks a little bit more proportional to the upper lip, okay? And everybody's lips are completely different shapes. Some people have very thin lips. Some people have a little bit bigger lips. So you are going to need to kind of look in the mirror and kind of address that on your own. But for your generic person, just make something that looks proportionally pleasing to you. Okay, I did say that I would talk about an open mouth option. So I am going to do that really quick. So if that is no interest to you, you may kind of skip ahead. But if you are interested, go ahead and pay attention. So I'm going to flip to my nose page and I'll just scooch my drawing up. So if you are going to do a open mouth, we'll start with the same thing. We'll start with that bottom bowl shape. And then we will do that upper two, making that V shape in the middle, and then kicking out to the side. Okay, remember that I have my guideline here, and then my nose is kind of like right here. Okay, all right. So how do I make this more of a smile? Same theory, but I'm kind of lifting. I'm leaving my shape large, is what I'll say. I'm not going to skinny anything up. I'm going to kind of curve upward a little bit instead of kind of straight out. I'm going to kind of curve up as I go off to the side and leaving just kind of that tail upward. And then connecting downward then. So you do kind of want to like taper off as you come to the corners of your mouth, because otherwise it's not going to make sense. Where your mouth opens and closes, things come to a point, right? They're not big and fat and bulgy. They hide into your facial structure. So I'm going to kind of skinny those up on the corners from here. Now, what do we do with the inside? Well, you're definitely not going to just like draw lines for teeth. That's going to ruin it. It's going to look like you have jail bars in your mouth, so don't do that. So sometimes what I like to do is just make a very, very subtle like split for the middle tooth maybe, but then just kind of adding a slight like bar there will kind of do the trick. And then if you want to add like your two front teeth, you could maybe do that, but it needs to be the most slight and subtle thing you've ever done, because we don't want to bring too much attention. So I commonly will take that line and sort of like really draw very subtle marks to represent teeth, and that's it. Okay, we don't want to do any like gigantic smile or anything like that, because it is just going to look super awkward on the face. So if you do want to open it up It doesn't change too much, but if you would like to appear a little bit more happy in your final drawing, there is an option for you. All right, so we are back to our head, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Okay, so we have our nose done, we have the inners of our ears, we have our mouth. Let's go ahead and address our eyes. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to take my eraser and just kind of clean up anything that might have been left inside. I know we did this yesterday, but just kind of clean that up. Okay, so now I'm going to make my eyelids first. I'm only making upper eyelids. I'm not worried about any sort of thickness at the bottom because it makes you look really sleepy. So I'm going to draw from corner to corner, like kind of a parallel curve, really pretty skinny, inside of my eye, not above it, inside. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Okay, so I have eyelids now. I am going to do the corners of my eyes, which are your tear ducts, right? So I'm going to make parentheses, so kind of closing in. This is also going to basically form your eyeball because your eye is a sphere inside of your head. So we need to make that look three-dimensional, and we are going to do that by making those kind of parentheses in the corners of your eyes, and that also forms space for your tear ducts, like so. So now we're a little creepy, a little glassy because we don't have our pupils and our irises yet. Okay, everybody gets a little bit confused. The colored part of your eye is not called your pupil. It is called your iris. So we're going to draw in our iris first, and that is a perfect circle. It never changes, unlike your pupil, which can change. Okay, so when we draw an iris, what I like to say is that you're going to draw a complete circle, because if you don't, you get this weird, wonky U-like shape in there, and we need it to be circular. So I like to barely touch my pencil to my paper in a circular manner. And that way I can just barely see it. And then once I have it on there, I can go ahead and kind of trace over just the part that would be in the eyelid. Okay, and I'm going to do that the same way on the other side, using my wrist and rotating ever so slightly. This will also help you get eyes that are a bit more symmetrical and the same size to each other, because you want to definitely check that out too. Your irises take up a decent amount of your eyeball space, so make sure that you are keeping that in mind and they don't look too small when you zoom out. I'm going to go ahead and erase just a little bit in the corners from where I can still see in my eyelid. All right, so I have an iris now, so I'm going to go ahead and add my pupil. You get to choose the size of your pupil. Remember, your pupil is like a camera lens, so the more light that it has, so I'm sitting in front of a window right now, and there's a lot of light coming in my eyes. My pupils are probably average size to a little bit smaller. If I was outside in direct sunlight, they're going to get even smaller because your pupil wants to control how much light's coming in. If you're in a dark movie theater, which we dearly miss right now, and you're watching a movie, your pupils open up really, really big to let in the light from the screen, but to adjust for the darkness in the room. When you leave that movie theater, I want you to think back to the last time you saw a movie, and if it was in the middle of the day, when you walked out of the movie theater into the sunlight, you were probably like a vampire, like, rah! And that's because your pupils change size, okay? And they don't change quite fast enough to adjust. So I'm going to go ahead and just make average size pupils. If you want to be a bit more cartoony, people typically make bigger pupils, but I want my color of my eye to be able to stand out later. And you can shade them in, that's not going to bother anybody. And there we go. All of a sudden we've kind of, boom, we've come to life a little bit because we have eyes. Okay, eyes are sort of amazing and they bring things to life. So it is really important that you take your time on the eye step to make it look just right, and just like you eventually when we get to our final copy. All right, so we've got to kind of fix our goofy eyebrows here. Now the reason why we only place them in is just to give an idea of shape and proportion. So now we're going to go ahead and stylize our eyebrows. Everybody's eyebrows are a little bit different. Some people have more curved eyebrows, some people's are a little flatter, but they all kind of connect. If you look carefully at me really quick, they kind of are, it's on that bone structure here that connects down to my nose. So they should follow this sort of curved pattern that will lead to our nose, and we'll address that in a second. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of shape in eyebrows. I'm going to show you two different shapes. So I'm going to make two different eyebrows at first. On the right side, I will go for a more like curvy, gentler, more female approach to the eyebrow. So being softer, a curve on the front, following that curve that was there, and then tapering off and getting nice and skinny as it comes to this diagonal over here. Make sure your eyebrows touch both of your dashed diagonals. Otherwise, again, it will look like a unibrow or it will look like somebody shaved your eyes. All right. On the other side, we're going to go a little more masculine, a little more angular. So we're going to do a more of a straight line approach off the front. And then we're going to go up almost like on a straight line angle, and then down over here on an angle. Now this is going to kind of change this curve right here, but again, it was for more for location and proportion. So I'm going to kind of angle then from there, and then I would erase what's left of the curve. Okay, so these are two very completely different eyebrows, so you need to kind of address which one best fits you. But again, you might need to make adjustments based on what, you think is appropriate for you. Maybe you need to have some sort of combination of the two. Totally fine. All right, we have a face, right? Fantastic. We do not want to erase any of our measurements today because you need those to help guide you when you go to do your final copy, because you can always rewatch this video, but at the same time, having that finished one handy next to you while you go to draw your final copy will be super, super helpful. Okay, the last thing we're going to do before our next video, and our next video will be about our bodies and our hair, because hair is a little curious, right? Everybody's hair is a little different, so I'm going to run through some different options for you for hair. Okay, but the last thing I want to do is talk about how we're going to connect our nose to our eyebrows, because we talked about how that bone structure is there. I like to do it only on one side, but it's up to you. But basically, you are just going to take from that curve of your eyebrow, you're going to make a very subtle line and curve kind of next to your eye. So there should be a tiny little bit of space here, but it aligns with the curvature of your eyebrow. And then it would also then come down and almost basically connect with like the outside of the nostril area over here. So if I wanted to do it on the other side, I could. And again, this just helps kind of give you some bone structure. See, I really don't like adding that second one in. I think one is enough to kind of help give a little bit more shape and structure to your face. Okay, so that is it for today. You want to get this far, and then we will deal with our hair, glasses, accessories, things like that tomorrow. Have a good one, guys.